1 second here. There we go. We're now recording. All right, I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves today and get us started. And then we'll get right into the conversation. So Sarah, can I hand it off to you?
Sure. My name's Sarah Eric. I live in Central Texas. I am a co-founder of Hill Country Tech Guys, along with my husband, Whit Eric. I'm the COO, and he operates as the CEO. We've been in operation since 2006. We have around 26 members, staff members. We started off in break fix, as most of you guys did, and went straight MSP about 6 years ago now, and have been trucking ever since.
Awesome, thank you. David.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is David Speier. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at InTech. We're located in Southwest Florida. 2 offices, one in the Sarasota-Bradenton area and one down in Fort Myers. InTech's been around since 1998, so we're celebrating our 23rd year in existence. About 6 years ago, I merged my managed service practice with InTech, and I'm one of the partners in the business now. So we've got multi-location challenges, we'll say, as we're working to grow the business, and we got about 40 people, just shy of about 40 people. So again, just like Sarah, started out very much T&M based, moved to managed services. We were pretty early adopters. 2007, 2008 is when we launched that practice, and oddly enough, we're seeing a lot of the same challenges moving the security conversation forward like we did with managed services back in those early days, right? Blue ocean, but you got to educate a lot more. So what you may lack in competition, you have to make up for in education. So that's our story.
Perfect. No, thank you. And Nate.
Yes, hello everybody. Nate Austin, or you can say hey you if you'd like, the VP of Business Development, but basically I'm one of the co-founders of MyTech. We actually, as of last Saturday, was our 20-year anniversary, so excited to reach that milestone. We have about 80 team members on our team across 2 geographies. Our headquarters and primary branch is in one of our branches in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and then we've had a branch in Colorado in the Denver market for about 5 years now, and hopefully next year, we're targeting this year, but you know, a lot of things went on pause this year, but we're targeting another location next year as well. And from the security stack perspective, my role as it fits into that is, you know, from a vendor management perspective, helping with the vendor selection on the business side of the equation. We'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but my role is kind of as not only in the sales side, helping what does our sales team need to do for in educating and supporting and enabling our internal team to sell and talk to our clients, and participating in the product development cycle with their technical representatives. So that's part of my role as it relates to part of the conversation we're going to have today, other than just, you know, trying to bring in revenue as a VP of Business Development. So look forward to the conversations and all your questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to stop share then so we can actually see all of us a little bit better. And we'll get right into it then. So we did talk a little bit beforehand. So we've got, I know a few of some of the things you're going to say, but I'm absolutely sure that some of this will go down some awesome threads. As in all of our Huntress webinars, please feel free to interact in the chat and let us know. Thank you, Sam. It is starting to feel like you're a bit of an employee here. You've been with us a lot the last couple days. And then if you do have any questions, you can throw those into Q&A, and we'll try and kind of interrupt periodically as needed to get to your questions as well. But the first question, and I hear this a lot from MSPs as they get started with us, or even just kind of in the security realm overall, but where did you start? How did you settle on the current stack? What did that journey look like?
Who's going to kick that off?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, it's a journey. It really is a journey along that. So we are fortunate enough to have a cybersecurity expert who has done a lot of the investigation for us on products. And we probably started about 2 or 3 years ago in trying out some different vendors and what their products entailed. And we did a lot of searching while we were at conferences and interviewing, and a lot of vendor interviews. And 2 years ago, we took a couple of our clients that would benefit from it and that we had good relationships with, and we've been trialing them out on those clients. And about a year ago, we set on a few different vendors. And this past year, though COVID did throw in some like longevity of it, it was combining those into what was now sellable and what grouped together well, because there are so many different offerings, and figuring out how to go to market with it, not only internally, but externally. So that's, I mean, we basically, we'll probably get into this later, but we've decided on 2 bundlings or 2 groups of the products that we front to all of our customers and externally now.
I'll chime in. So this was an interesting process that, again, a few years back, I think it was, we felt at first like we were really behind from a standpoint of adding in additional security features, benefits, products, tools to our program. As we saw, of course, as technologists, you see the industry, you see the threats evolving faster than our clients see them, of course. And so we felt behind, but I think once we eventually put together a bundle, we feel like we caught up and maybe it got to a much better place. But it took us longer to get there. And I think one of the reasons why that it did is because part of the problem that we had at the time is that we were looking at, well, we should add in DNS filtering, and then we should add in maybe some additional like little backups or something like that. We should add in a security awareness training. We should add in a management tool that would help us out. We should add in these different things, and we were trying to figure out how to go to our clients with that. And we were like, gosh, our clients are going to feel like we're nickel and diming them every quarter if we're trying to go to them like, here's a new thing you got to add in, and next quarter, here's a new thing you got to add in, and then MFA, and then all these other things. And so we took longer to develop a bundle that helped us go to our clients one time. Initially one time. Of course, it's an ongoing thing that we'll talk about, but one time with, here's an additional thing, that program that we feel you need, added on to our existing management program. And that is how we felt that we could do a better job of going to market with it, where our clients would feel, well, it was a little bit more incrementally. It wasn't like a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. We went with $15 with that bundle to start per person, but we felt ultimately that was a better way to go about it, and it was a more comprehensive and selling margins in the mystery a little bit, right? When you can bundle some stuff in and it's hard to shop any one of those individual things, you hopefully can get a little bit different value from a pricing perspective. So that's the kind of way we went to market. There's only one other comment I'll make, generically speaking, relative to how we chose the partners, because I think it's important to consider, is that it was really important for us. We have a MSP ready mindset when we look at our partners. I think it's a phrase that's probably used across the industry pretty widely. But that means that not only is the technology proficient and quality and solving the problem in a good way that we can put our reputation behind, it's also on the business side. Does their billing align to our billing and how our clients consume the services? Because we actually started with, and is it okay to name the product? It's not, okay, all right, I'll name the product. So we actually started with KnowBe4 for our security awareness training program, and this was at the time, so this goes back, I think, into 2016, 2017, when we were evaluating these. And but KnowBe4 wanted to bill upfront for a year for our clients. And we're like, well, that's not how our clients consume it. And what if we pay for client A and they add on, and then their agreement is terminating or up for renewal in 9 months, and that now everything's out of sync? And so we basically, we were working with them, and they said they were coming, and they might have come out with that now, I don't know. But at the time, they were saying, we're coming out with it, and they never got to a point where it was going to be client aggregated monthly billing before we launched this program. And so we chose a different vendor, not because KnowBe4 wasn't a great tool and a great product from the content and the delivery. It's because the back-end accounting side just didn't align with how we went to market to our clients and how our clients consumed it. So that's one of the key variables. That's an illustration of a key way in which we choose the vendors that we work with through in any program.
So
Perfect.
I'll bring up the caboose on this one. Similar story though, right? I mean, it really, for us, it was an exercise in analysis paralysis. I think what we were trying to do is create the perfect stack. what we knew, having grown this business and being disciples of Paul Dipple, is that we couldn't not settle on a consistent stack, right? We got to be able to train our people on it. We've got to have consistency of deployment, consistency of management, pricing, all the pieces that go into it. If we're going to own that piece, if we're going to take on the responsibility. We had I joke with you guys about this. We had a list on the whiteboard in one of our conference rooms that said "Do not erase," and it was up there so long that we literally had to replace the whiteboard, because by the time we finally settled on something, it took us like almost 2 years, because it was just this ongoing debate on what's too hot, what's too cold, what was sellable, what was not sellable. How do we not price ourselves out of the market and tell the right story and protect ourselves? And so, you know, we ended up, much like Sarah, just we got to settle on something. And so that's what we did, because we realized that we couldn't meet the need of every specific vertical and every client. We didn't want to water this. It's such an important service that we provide. You can't water it down and dilute it just to meet a price point. Like, it's just too much risk for us as business owners, frankly, right? I mean, because we're taking on that responsibility. So, you know, ultimately we did settle on something. You know, to Nate's point, we've got a rule with all of our vendors that if it doesn't have, we call it integrated billing. If it doesn't have integrated billing where you can uptick with our PSA tool, then we don't really even consider it. Even it just doesn't become scalable as you grow. So, but you know, depending on the size and where you want to go with your business, that may not be critical, but it was for us. So I think having those rules of engagement are important as the as your R&D teams go out and look at these things and try and understand like what's in play and what's not in play. Having a good set of expectations is key. I don't know if that answered the question.
Perfect. No, that's all. It's all really good. I do want to jump now a couple just because you brought it up, and I think that it's important to kind of walk through this. So Paul Dipple, for anyone in the audience not familiar, Paul Dipple Service Leadership Index does a financial benchmarking for MSPs. And I'm doing this in a very short summary. It's a really complex system, but it's an amazing way to see where you benchmark as a business, what's best in class, where you sit on an operational maturity level scale. But one of the things that he preaches is one stack. That's, you know, in order to be the most mature, it simplifies your sales process, things like that. So that becomes the ever important kind of half joking question of how many different security stacks do you currently offer? So David, you brought it up, so we're going to start with you. How many different stacks, if you will, do you have?
Yeah, so what we so I always give a multi-part answer, I think, right? It depends. And so we did a couple of things. We're going to talk about this later. Number one, we something that Arlen said to us, Arlen Sorensen, was regardless of what you think, your clients think you already do it for them. And so, and that's a really compelling statement, and so true, as most of what Arlen says. And so we had to prepare ourselves with the right narrative to go back in front of clients. To Nate's point, where we don't want to feel like we're nickel and diming you. The security landscape has changed. We have to adjust our posture. And so what we did is we chose to put some components inside our traditional managed service agreement. We juiced up that as just a core, and then we presented our managed security package is a supplement to that if they really wanted to do it right. And so we have one offering, but it does have uplifts that they can put into it, kind of depending on things. So, you know, again, to drop another name, like we've chosen to partner with the compliancy group on the HIPAA side of things, which is only applicable if you're in that space, right? And so I was just having this discussion with one of my sales reps yesterday, and I said, doing managed security without the HIPAA component built in is malpractice, right? No pun intended. It really is. It's like you can't say I'm providing your managed security practice and not touch on that piece of it. I don't believe is a responsible provider, and it's a much different debate. But so we offer one. We offer one as a baseline, and then depending on some of their specifics, maybe they've got certain compliance requirements, you know, maybe they're SOC 2 Type 2, and like we can build up from there. But again, we've still got a standard set of tools that build on that stack. That it's not dealer's choice on what we do with that. It's not every engineer gets to choose their own, you know, favorite encryption tool. It's just not scalable. So we've got really tight controls on what's approved to deploy, and that's what we sell. That's our responsibility to go out and provide the value in the marketplace.
Okay. Sarah, how many different stack offers do you have in the security realm for your clients?
Yeah, all of our clients also have a base that they adjust to be in our MSP, which is, I mean, very basic to us, at least in our consideration, which is, a BDR, some of the business continuity elements that we have in there. And then on top of that, for our security offering, we do have 2 different offerings. Reason being is one is more of a, what we define as, we call it the core, which is what we feel like everybody should have, right? And it does include things like MFA and content filtering and phishing training, and there's one more thing in there. Oh, dark web scanning. And then the second being what we call active, which is the human element. It does include things like Huntress, right? Those are the things that which we advise everybody to get, but those that are not totally bought into it. I think the important thing that I think everyone's kind of hitting on is the thing is educating. And so when you're telling them and giving them that there's additional security always to be had, then it starts the conversation of, so you're not doing it all. And then that's a really good place to be. And you can't shy away from those conversations, because without them, it's exactly right. They will assume that you're doing it. So we always kind of preach what all of the offerings are, and then we tell them, let's start with this, or let's go to this, or you really need it all, depending on where they're at and where they're at in their own marketplace. If they are very large and if they are very strategic and trying to move and grow, we always offer the highest offering.
Sounds fair. Nate.
Yeah, all right. So we have one stack, and I would say 2 programs. What I mean by that is we have a program that's for our clients that don't have their own IT staff and clients that have their IT staff. So we have programs that are management programs that are for those 2 offerings, but if they're in this bucket, it's one offering, right? So, and it's the same offering for both programs. But like David mentioned, we have a couple things that are more elevated, if you will, from some more security, a more in-depth security assessment that we build in if they need compliance and they really need to have a security plan. We encourage it to all of our clients by default, but that is one of the things that we will let clients opt out of, is more of an annual security assessment that's very deep. And then like a SIMSOC solution, that's another add-on, because for us, that's very targeted towards a lot of times our clients that really need the DFARS or ITARS compliance, and they really need that piece to meet some compliance requirements. So to David's point, though, it's a one stack, but we have some options that are more applicable and from a pricing perspective, because they need it if they have compliance that they're really subject to. The other thing that I think is relative to the one stack, that is, we had to make a change to our management program in how we went to market, and we had to change this in our agreements, is that, and I'm sure some of you, I know this was our problem, I'm sure some of you have dealt with this, is that, great, you have one stack today, but then that new threat or that new tool, that new thing comes out tomorrow, and you sold this stack to this client yesterday, but now how do you handle that new thing that is got to come out this next year, this next month, this next quarter, this next couple years? So we had to build in a caveat, and I know there's a lot of people that do this, but we hadn't been doing this, is we added a caveat into our management program so that we could iterate the stack over time. Like, if we believe this is a tool that we need to deliver the security and fulfill our promise that we've committed to you, we need to be able to deploy this tool, and we need to be able to cover the cost of that. So on an annual basis, we reserve the right to be able to increase the agreement by, I think it's up to like 3 or 5%. I can't remember what's 3 or 5% written to our agreement, but it's not just an arbitrary increase. It's that, hey, if we're bringing new tools, new capabilities, new functions, that's what we have chosen to build into our agreements, which we never had before. So we didn't have that capability before. So we're always in the spot where we're adding tools, but not adjusting our costs. And that's not a good place to be. So one stack is the short answer, but those are a couple other variables around that.
Okay, but the common thread I'm hearing in all of it is being that trusted advisor role to your clients, to your customers, that rather than selling them, to all of your points, one tool at a time, keep going back over and over again, you're having a security more in-depth conversation and making it a bit of a actual conversation then, and finding tools and specific things that fit their individual business's needs, but that you've got all that kind of in the back end on your side ready to go so that you can have those types of conversations. I think that's where we would love to see everybody go, is to that point. So this is why we do stuff like this, to help folks learn how to do that. One thing in the chat, and this actually is coming up in our conversation anyway, so I think it's a good time. People are wanting to know if the panelists are okay sharing what is in your stack. Nate, because we left off with you, we'll start with you again. If you're willing to share, and tool names are okay, if you're okay sharing them, we are absolutely okay with you kind of letting folks know what you guys have settled on. But if you'd share just, and we don't need to get into all the industry specific, like tiny ones that are for specific compliance, but big picture.
Yeah, so I actually shared a link to kind of how we bundled our security program, just as a reference. That's when I told you, said we created that bundle, that's what we did. So we actually use, so I'm gonna just go down the list so I don't forget one. So we use WebRoot from a security awareness training perspective. We actually also use through a desk director as a portal. There's Bigger Brains workplace, like office training. One of the risks we talked about, this is a very minor thing, but one of the risks we talked about our clients, because like, why, how is that security? Well, like you can go out to YouTube and randomly Google something, but how do you know that's a safe video to watch relative to training for your team? So we built that in. DNS filtering, we use the WebRoot DNS filtering. We also spent some time not just using it at the network level, but at the device level, where there's actually the DNS agent that's on there. And then we use Huntress, basically the Microsoft 365 mobile device management, and we also layer on some other MDM, but that's the default. Hard drive destruction, it's this little thing, but we just made sure that our clients knew that we were destroying their hard drives when they recycled equipment with us, right? I mean, that's a security thing as far as keeping data on there. It's a simple thing, doesn't really cost you a lot, but it sounds good, right? We built in Office 365 backup. We're using Vault America for that. And then we also use a desktop document backup. And you'd be surprised, if you haven't done this, you'd be surprised how many documents get changed across your client base daily, because it was in like tens of thousands when we showed that data. So we use Max Backup from a SolarWinds Max Backup product for that. I think we use Passly, which is the old Auth Anvil ID agent. I think they're all kind of merging and for our MFA. I think those are the main ones. So that's a lot of our stack, other than the just process procedure Active Directory things that we do, and just the wireless configuration. You know, there's a whole bunch of security that's outside of just the tool set, but those are the key tool sets that we use and build in.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah or David, I'll leave it up to whoever wants to go.
Yeah, so to echo a lot of what Nate's saying, from a tool perspective, SOC-SIM, we use Vigilant, but we're starting to migrate more out of Perch. Interestingly enough, our security guys really like the ability to have more analytics and telemetry on the endpoint rather than just the domain control and I'm already out of my league, so I'll quit talking. The DNS filtering, ours comes with next gen AV, so we're using the Sentinel-1 for that piece as an upgrade. User awareness training is huge. It's the one thing that you can really demonstrate a difference on in front of the clients. I think a big piece of this is really, I think as technologists, we focus too much on the what. Like we want to talk about the tools and the feeds and the speeds, and really it's about the business outcome. And in this case, it's about a lack of outcome, right? See what you're trying to protect against something terrible happening. Huntress, we're big fans of the ATP suite within Office 365, like getting that set up correctly. Everything from mobile device management to alerting when rules get set up inside of Outlook to forward mail outside the domain, so things like that. I mean, just massive risk factors involved. We've re-engaged recently with Axient, oddly enough, to do much more of a business continuity thing. We got some really cool tools going on out there. Dark web monitoring is another component of it, making sure that we know what credentials are floating around out on the web. That's it. That's the main piece of, I think, our core offering. I'm sure there's some other tools that the guys use that we don't even really promote to just help protect and become aware, but that's the main piece of it.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah.
Yeah, we're very similar with the Office 365, and those are in our basics. I'd also like to mention that we use Managed Service Platform. They changed their name a few years ago, and I've never gotten it right, I think. But they were really big in account management and having those conversations, and so we've built a lot of those policies that they have the tools within their own stuff, but it's engaging them, it's activating them, and it's making sure that they're aware that whether they're turned on or not for their entire organization. So we use a lot of that for educational purposes for just our basic MSP that has a lot of those security components in it. For our security offering specifically, we do have the 4 vendors for our basic, which is dark web, it's OpenDNS, it's Duo for MFA, it's gonna forget that. Oh, KnowBe4 on that last one, and then for our active one, which is what we call just AI or active use, is the Huntress, Perch, and Sentinel is for our last one on that.
Perfect. Yeah, Matt just shared. Yeah, it used to be Reframe Your Client, managed services platform. They just actually, we paired with them to build a cost of downtime calculator. Love the team there. They do some really cool different ways to show data and keep an eye on that kind of stuff. So just really, yeah, glad you brought them up. They're a fan favorite around here.
They've done a great job of educating, allowing us to educate clients. They really start some conversations.
Yeah, so good. Well, awesome. Thank you all then for sharing that level. I know that's people always ask it kind of quietly, like, what do you have in your stack? And I think it's an important conversation to have, because it's, it's all comes down to preference and what works best for you. But there's a lot of tools out there, and honestly, a lot that people have never heard of. So thank you for sharing that. One thing that we did talk about a little bit kind of coming into this is, let's go back to a question a little bit earlier that we had of, what are you doing to protect your own house? We hear the phrase, are you eating your own dog food? What type of stuff are you doing internally, and what does that look like in your business?
I mean, some days I can't even get on a webinar like this because we're locked down so stinking tight. Frankly speaking, yeah, it's for us, we've really taken it to heart. We have a passion around this subject. Again, I'll name drop. It was probably about 3 or 4 years ago at IT Nation. Arnie, and part of his keynote, made the statement that it's our incumbent responsibility, right? It's our obligation as service providers to protect our clients. And for whatever reason, it just really resonated with me. And I personally have become a bit of an evangelist as it relates to our community and our clients and getting the word out there, because they just don't understand the risk that's out there. They just simply don't. So it's not about 300 points of margin on a tool. It's about the whole picture of protecting them. And our thing at Intech is enabling people to do what matters, and we can't do that if we're dealing with security issues and things like that. So well, shoot, Becky, I forgot the question. I get so passionate about this subject. What was the question again? Good Lord.
What are you doing internally to protect your own house?
Oh, our own stuff. So yeah, so we like, well, the other thing I'll say from an impassioned plea, we're probably the most targeted industry on the planet. Plain and simple, right? We've got the keys to how many kingdoms. And so like, take this very, very seriously, because we're under attack as an industry and as peers. And so what are we doing? We deploy so much more than even that we put out into our client environments. Just simply from the way that we've got password management, we've locked down all of our tools. Like, only 2 people in our organization have the ability to make changes inside of our core systems. Me not being one of them, which I'm very happy about, because I know that I can sleep better at night. Locking down remote access, like, again, we just remind ourselves every day that security is not convenient. Security is not convenient. So whether it's the 2FA in every single application that we use, again, not allowing remote access. Like our core applications can't be hit from the outside, which created real problems when we went mobile earlier this year. Like we had a lot of hiccups when we took, literally overnight, we made the call at lunchtime one day, and the next morning everybody's working from home. And so we had done some things to create an agile environment with our people from laptops and things like that, but it certainly required that we change things in our security posture, because now everybody's deployed. So I don't have a list of tools, but I can just tell you that, like, if you don't do this on yourself first as an organization, like, you're putting yourself in a massive amount of risk as a provider, because don't look at managed security as the cash grab and the cool trend that's going on in the industry. The amount of it's just the litigation and the challenges, like this 20 years, 25 years of building a business can be vaporized if not done correctly. I'm not trying to scare people out of it, but it's just like, that's the reality of it. And the other thing that I'll say along with it is we made a concerted effort at the beginning of last year to get all of our engineers Security Plus certified. Like, let's get them on something. The guy that leads our team is a CISSP, certified ethical hacker, and he does all that stuff. But we believe that every one of our people should at least have a baseline security education, and so it's something that they have to do within their first 90 days of employment. It's just like, that's just a standard within our business, and so we're really trying to work hard internally and then take it externally that we're a security first organization. And that doesn't mean that you have to buy managed security first, but if we don't put it through that lens, then we're completely irresponsible. And I don't want to be an irresponsible stakeholder in my community. That's my attached plate. Thanks for reminding me what the question was to start.
Hey, sure thing. No, that was great and called upon a lot of, lessons learned and listening to others in the industry as well, which again is why we do stuff like this, because I think that is incredibly important. Sarah, what are you guys doing internally?
Yeah, we wholeheartedly agree with David. We feel like we know, and you guys have heard the stories, that MSPs are being attacked everywhere on a security standpoint because we hold the keys to a lot of kingdoms. And so we don't take that lightly at all. So security is something that we talk about all the time. We have all the stuff deployed on us. We were the first test for everything, right? And then in addition to that, we are currently in our SOC 2 certification program, because we believe that that's something that we also want to make sure that SOC 2 has a lot more to do with like processes and policies that you have internally to make sure that you're buttoned up, to make sure that you're not exposed in different ways, not even just technological ways, but every way, right? And so we really made an effort last year to say that this is something that we feel that all MSPs should be doing, and that we're going to not, if we're going to preach that to our customers that they should be doing this, that we were going to be the first ones to go. And we haven't looked back. It is, he said the word inconvenient. And I felt like that was yes, like that is when you first start going down this path and you're teaching other people about it, and it takes you like 3 different ways just to log in from home to your stuff. It is one of those, like, take a deep breath thing. But now after 2 years, you just truck through it. It's not a thing that you even think about anymore. You have your phone to get you into everything, and it helps you sleep better at night, knowing that you're doing all of these things to not only protect your company, but all the companies that depend on you. That to think one day that somebody would get a data breach through us is pretty much like the worst thought for us. So we take it very seriously.
Perfect. No, thank you. Nate, if you can wrap up this part of the conversation.
Yeah, and I'll try and keep it brief. I mean, and by the way, we prefer to drink our own champagne versus eating our own dog food. Just, it tastes a little better. But yes, I think in addition to everything that, David and Sarah said, I think we're not doing the SOC 2, but we are doing other assessments, the same assessments we do for our clients, we're doing for ourselves. But I'd say the things that we've really, beyond what we already do for our clients, which we already do for ourselves, is a lot of the process and procedural things that I don't think our clients often do, even down to physical security. I mean, we have 2FA on our door access, right? So it's not just your key card, you have to enter in a PIN code. So things like that, it's about physical access, it's about administrative controls, as well as the technical tool set security. Background checks that I'm sure we all do, or a lot of us do on any of our engineers, making sure that if any engineer ever leaves our organization, that we have a way to reset passwords across our client base nearly immediately. Just all those little things like that some of our clients don't have to think about just because of the nature of what they do versus what we do. But yeah, I think Sarah said it as, we are the first guinea pig for this stuff, so that we learn the nuances and the idiosyncrasies, and then that way it also helps us better sell it and deploy it and manage it and support it if we're also using it. So.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you. So let's move into a little bit then about, so you built the security stack, you're using all these tools internally, you're talking about it to your clients and your customers. As you started to sell this and are moving through this process, kind of how did you sell it? What types of lessons did you learn along the way? how did you kick off the conversation without just defaulting to fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or the dreaded FUD? Kind of what did that process look like? David, you've shared your journey a little bit, so if I could just call on you first to share, that would be wonderful.
All right. Well, it was it's a painful road. As much as I'd like to say, all we have to do is go in and set a few meetings, and people will get it. And so I'll repeat myself for my fellow panelists here. For our experience was that we could craft the right story to create the need, and the client partners would adopt to the concept that it's important until we put a price in front of them, and they'd say, yeah, it's not quite that important, right? And so, the key is understanding that we can only drive the passion so far, right? Ultimately, they have to make the decision. And so I've got a lot of famous Davidisms around InTech, and one of them is our responsibility is to help people understand the risk and how to mitigate the risk. Ultimately, it's their decision on if they do or not. Now, ultimately, if they make enough bad decisions, I'm leaving. Right? I'm not going to stick around and be a responsible party to it. So for us, I would say it's a two-part thing. Number one, understanding it's not about the what, it's more about the so what, the now what. And the adoption can be a little slow. I wish that I would have met Nate on this topic about 3 years ago and tried what they did, because it was brilliant. We definitely we weren't quite that intelligent the way we tried to sell our way into every relationship and prove value through statistics. I think that doesn't work. At least it doesn't in the Fort Myers, Bradenton, Sarasota area. Our clients are smart; they get it, but they also think. I mean, we had this conversation with a prospect yesterday. Well, we haven't been hit in 20 years. Why do we need to worry about it now? Right? I mean, well, you may be right. You may not be. And so, my question back to the sales rep: are they willing to bet their business on that platform? Like, you're letting it all ride. And so, the point is, I think that it's a little bit different sales process, and for us, we've had to learn how to stair step it a little bit different, showing value within their organization and not worry about what's happened on the national front or even the regional front. It's just really about them, their industry, and their business, and understanding what matters to them. And I think that one of the other things I'll say is we start by asking a pretty simple question, which what's the security conversation and posture look like within your leadership team, right? Because if they say it's not even on the radar, then it's that much harder of a conversation for us to have. It's really hard to push a rope. And if they're at least understanding that this could be something they need to look at and potentially address, then at least gives us a fighting chance. But this is one of those topics that fear, uncertainty, and doubt it doesn't really work as much as you would want it to. And so unfortunately, some people have to learn the hard way. And so they might adopt after a situation or after they have a friend or a colleague that's been hit by something. But it's you just can't give up, right? And I would say that the other thing that you need to have in your arsenal is some sort of release of liability document that you share. And so once you have had that conversation with an existing client and they've opted out of the program, regardless of how you go to market with it, we don't require that they sign it, because I don't think that there's a high adoption rate of like, will you sign this thing? That's, they're just not going to sign it. And so now we're burning the cycles chasing around a document. But the fact of the matter is that we deliver it. We only deliver it to an owner principal in the organization. We've also found a propensity where we're dealing with somebody that's kind of in the middle, thinking they're doing the organization a favor by shaving a few dollars off the deal. And like, that's not their decision to make. And so we'll work through them with respect, but then we also say, hey, listen, I know you've talked to your boss, the owner, 50 times in this thing, and they keep saying no. I'm just going to go ahead and send this document to protect both of us, right? And so we can position it in such a way that we're not degrading their importance in the process, but pretty frequently like, oh, hold on a second, let me have that one more conversation with them, right? And so, but for us, it's about the transition of risk and responsibility, so that they're fully aware that this is not being done. And if they can live with that, then that's on them. And I think it's important to also have good hooks in both of your managed service agreements, that in the case of an incident, I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but in the case of an incident or an event, like, you're not cleaning up that mess on an all-you-can-eat managed service deal. Like, I can't subsidize bad decisions on that. So, all right. I'm out of time. Thank you.
No, that was That was perfect. Just as one follow-up question for you then, because I think that this is an important piece to touch on then. So you said you started this 2 years ago? Is that correct?
Yeah, two years ago. Yeah, tail end of 2019.
How long did it take then to get the majority of your clients or customers to kind of buy into that concept and get on this security path?
What a great question. I can't answer that because we don't have the majority of our clients still on it, right? It's really interesting that we have much higher adoption from net new clients. Like we can get about 80% of our net new clients to sign the whole deal, right? Manage services, manage data protection, and manage security. Going back to existing clients, really place question, Becky. Getting existing clients to sign, oddly enough, is far harder than getting strangers to sign. It's just the weirdest thing. And so we had a quick pop with the early adopters, right? And go back to Paul Dipple when he talks about the thinking wavelengths and the strategic thinker versus the tactical thinker versus the ad hoc thinker. Like it met that expectation. It was slow adoption. And so what we did is we set a KPI for all of our partner success managers, VCIOs, whatever we want to call them this month, that they had to have security conversations with their assigned client base in a 12-month period. So you at least had to go have the conversation with them and put it into, we use Reframe managed service platform for our IT roadmaps, and it's just a standing agenda item in their IT roadmap is let's run some of this stuff. And so in some cases we're using ConnectWise Identify, and we're doing NIST assessments on them. In other cases, we're doing phishing campaigns. Everyone looks a little bit different based on the client, but we're starting to educate and drive awareness into the fact that you just can't keep your head buried in the sand and hope it's going to work out okay.
Mm-hmm. Nope. Fair. Thank you. Nate or Sarah, do either one of you want to kind of talk about what your lessons learned along the way of this have been?
I'll go.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like how you present the information is really, really important. And I've always, I have a lot of, it's funny hearing David and Nate talk because I've said a lot of the same isms about, it's not about selling them anything, but about them understanding the liabilities that are already out there, the risks that are already out there. And as, some people have told us, we're just the guides, right? We're just to present the information to allow them to in their journeys or their paths. But we go with the house story. So you have a house and currently your doors are locked. Congratulations. If that's enough security for you, and if the stuff inside your house is not worth putting more on that, it's just worth a lock, you have a lock, and that's fantastic. But there are other things, and, you know, we're from Texas, so we'll go through the whole story of, do you have the dog and, you know, the gun that's sitting by your bedside table to be able to protect you? So that's, the people resonate with that down here, but maybe not everybody. But we do the whole story of, are you protecting your house in all of the ways that you normally would, right? And it's a similar conversation that we talk about with a lot of the policies, because you're not going to put security cameras in your house if you're not locking your door and you're leaving it right open. So let's button up your house first before it. I think that the hardest thing for us was telling the story and allowing them to hear it in such a way, because you're never going to sit down in front of a customer and tell them every single thing that those security things do and them understand all the things that are in your bundle. It's never gone well for us to be able to do that, to sit down and say, you know, this is going to do this. They didn't understand it. So that was one thing that we learned. We also offer an external piece. So we don't always sell internally. We sell a security offering on top, just outside of an MSP contract. And there were some things that we learned very interesting there, which is one that remediation is almost impossible to try to work with whatever they have going on. It takes a lot more time. So we offer a security offering that's just monitoring and advising. It's not actually remediating. So that's one thing that we learned that was very difficult, that we could not do. And that actually sold really well to a co-managed IT situation, which we had not currently gone into that environment before. We really kind of steered clear of that scene. And so this has kind of opened that relationship. And it was kind of nice, because I don't know if you guys are like me, but I have all of these lists where it's director of IT or, you know, these people that we would not market to. And so we've been able to funnel them through that kind of campaigns of getting a co-managed IT environment where we're just doing security offering advising. And I've kind of gone off topic, I feel like, but did I? That's
you answered. That was, yeah. No, that's again, like I think that the fun thing that I've gotten to discover since I started with Huntress is that everybody, regardless of where you are in the country, where you are in your business, how long you've been doing this, you're hearing a lot of similar pushback, if you will, from your clients. Like it's pretty standard. Might be said in slightly different dialects or words, but it's a pretty standard set of, I thought you were already doing that and that wouldn't happen to me. So I think, you know, as often as we can hear how other people are learning that and getting kind of that, you know, over that hurdle with their folks, I think that that's good, because you never know what might resonate with that one client. So having more than one, you know, your front door is locked type analogy is really critical, I think, to kind of being, you know, being that advisor role. So how is that going then on a timeline perspective of getting folks upgraded or into the additional security bundle then, Sarah?
Yeah, for our internal, I'm having the same thing that David stated. The first wave of acceptance of the program was very quick, and we were like, oh, this is easy. Everybody wants this, you know, and then we got probably 25 acceptance only. And then it's been an uphill battle ever since. We're probably still, you know, anywhere between 25 and 50. It's been wavering quite a, you know, as we get a lot signed, and I lose track of it, but it's somewhere in between there. But we do have way better acceptance with new MRR coming in. And I think to what David said is he's like, I'm not quite sure why. It's because you're having that upfront conversation right from the get-go. You know, this isn't some contract that you've had forever where your whole mantra is like, we take care of everything, don't worry about it all. And now you're telling them there's other things that you need to worry about and sign on. And so they're, you know, they kind of get in this, wait, you had everything. You told me you had it. And now you're just being upfront. There's lots of stuff out there. This is what we can offer you. And it's important to lock these things down, but it is easier when that's the first thing that you're almost talking to them about is these important things that are out there. It will be interesting as I love Nate's 3% thing. We don't front it like that, but I'm, you know, it's one of the reasons I love getting on these things, because now I'm going to go back to my leadership and be like, hey, I got this idea and it's not mine. But that's definitely a good thing to be putting in there, because then we can just continue to take care of it. We can continue just to be offering the best for our clients. And I love that.
Perfect. No, thank you. All right, Nate, how has the conversation gone with your folks in Minnesota and Colorado?
I'd say very similar, as you alluded. I think there's a couple of lessons learned from us. One, I'll call it fortunate timing. There was one thing that was unfortunate timing, and another part that was fortunate timing. The unfortunate timing is, and a lesson learned for those of you who are trying to put together a bundle or launch something new to your clients. We launched it in Q1. After our clients' budgets had been established. So that frustrated and upset some of our clients. And so if I were to do that over again, I would at least try and time it better so that we could have the conversation in Q4 that might be implemented in Q1. So that's something that I would maybe suggest. The fortunate timing was that basically once we launched this, and I'll get into that in a second, we immediately after the launch, we also built this into a completely overhauled management program. So everybody net new from that point forward got everything. So it wasn't a conversation about trying to upgrade. So from the existing client base, and I'll give you the short answers quickly, the existing client base, we actually have a plan. We had a stated goal, but by the end of next year, so we launched this at the beginning of 2018. The stated goal is that by the end of 2021, that we had all of our existing clients converted, not just to the new security program, but to the whole new management program, really because we wanted to mitigate the risk of attrition, right? So if we're going to them and asking them to spend more money and really trying to put a pretty fine point on it, it forces a thought and a potential exit, right? So we worked with our team very very intentionally to say, look, we don't want to force the conversation and force it if it's not the right time. So bring up the make sure we have the conversation, which we did in that launch. But then over time, it's let's work with the client as it makes sense and as we mitigate the risk and make sure we're doing our part to solidify the relationship so that we're in a good place to be able to renew and convert the agreement. So, and we do three-year terms. So that's we're kind of on that cycle. So going back to the launch, I think an interesting thing that we did is that we actually did a 90-day trial. So we launched at the beginning of January in 2018, and we basically provided a lot of data. To David's point, it helped. It didn't sell it completely, but we provided data like how many documents are actually being backed up in your environment on a daily basis that you didn't even realize are sitting on your client, your end user desktops. How many threats are we actually stopping by these additional tools? There's a handful of clients that Huntress actually, in fact, this was early on with Huntress, and we actually got a call from Kyle on a Sunday night because one of our clients had downloaded ransomware and it started doing its thing, and he called our on-call team and said, hey, if you don't deal with this right now, they're going to walk into their office tomorrow and have an encrypted laptop. So we were like, but that was in the trial period. They weren't even paying for that yet. So and then we did that we went every client. We went live with this trial where we basically launched that bundle that I talked about earlier, and we had them opt out. So we built a web page and said, look, you need to opt out of this. And if you opt out, here's the link. And we had lots of communication, nearly weekly communication for that entire first quarter with blog posts and education and awareness and data and statistics, all this kind of stuff. There was also content to help our sales team have the conversation, right? Because they need help and reinforcement and support to do that. And then they basically needed to go onto the web page and opt out, which is basically we said you're agreeing, you understand, you're assuming the liability. We only had one client that was really upset about it, and because he felt he was in a rock and hard place. Like, here, I've gone to my board and said, this is the budget that we're sticking to for this year, and you're telling me I'm assuming this liability if I opt out. So either I'm assuming I'm going to get yelled at by my board, or I'm assuming risks that I don't want to assume. And so he didn't actually fill out the form, but we had a direct conversation about what it meant. But that's the way we did it, and we got about somewhere between 25 and 30% adoption in the first 90 days, which was great. So everybody else, we just pulled things off and we opted them out. And then we've just been working on it ever since to convert them to the new program or add on. So I think that helps explain it. We're not there yet. We're probably, we probably have, I'd say 60% of our clients that have it either upgraded, maybe more, that have actually upgraded the security program or are on our new program. We probably have a good 30%, maybe 40% left yet. And it's almost 3 years later. I mean, and COVID put a little bit of a dent in that because we didn't go to our clients, as strongly this year with upgrades and spend more money with us as we probably would have. But it's a long road when you've got, the number, we've got 150, 200 clients that are all managed clients. I mean, it's a lot of work. And to mitigate the risk of attrition. We could have gone fast, but then we could have lost a lot of clients too, and then we'd had another problem on our hands. So that's why we're kind of doing a slow roll.
Okay,
Yeah, I got something to add here to what
please.
you said. I think that it's important, and I mentioned this earlier, but it's an old adage, nobody argues with their own data. And the fact is that we can quote statistics all day long from the Verizon report, but when Nate walks into the report and says, do you know that you got a data leak problem? Here it is, right? And so it's almost like the question that we had about, do we use cost of downtime calculators? Sometimes that number is so high based on their information that it almost loses value in the discussion, right?
They don't believe it.
Yeah, and so we take a little bit of a different approach. I was talking about some of the ways that we get in, and at a bare minimum, run a free phishing campaign and figure out how long it takes for people to engage in email and how fast they can be compromised. It's really compelling data when you said you realize that three people gave up credentials, and it goes back to Sarah's comment about locking the doors, right? You can have the best security system in the world if it's not armed, or people leave keys taped to the front door. There it is. And so every time we do one of those and they fail, the first question is, well, who did it? And now we just tell them, we're not even going to tell you who did it, because that's not the point. The point is you have risk sitting inside your castle every day. And so figuring out how to put this into terms that they'll understand gives you a better shot, right? At least then it's their information, and it's not, it's them and their business and their people. And I think that's a compelling conversation.
Yeah, and David, this is also something that Sarah and you said earlier, and you just reminded me of it, is that, the reality is not everyone is going to be a good client for you, right? And so being the more clear you can be as an organization on who your client is and how you go to market and the philosophical alignment that makes for a successful relationship so you can deliver a great experience to your clients, realize that clients that don't want that aren't a good fit. And you're going to fight them for however long. So don't even waste your time. Build that into your sales process so you qualify them, and don't bring them on because that'll just create more problems for you later. And when you get clients that one of the conversations that we talk about as a marketing team here is that if you go to managed service provider A and you say, hey, are you going to keep me secure? And you go to managed service provider B and say, are you going to keep me secure? And you're an unknowing, like just layperson, business owner, operator, the answer is going to be yes. They're not going to say, our customer service sucks. Our security is no good. Of course they're going to say they're great at customer service. Of course they're going to say they're going to keep you secure. So you got to dig into the details. But those clients that aren't willing to pay a little bit more for it, they're not your client, and that's okay, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. So the best thing that I could advise there is it's not about your bundle. It's not about even your data, because there's no amount of convincing that's going to make that fit for them. It's about, early as possible in the sales process, find ways to qualify those people out so you and your team aren't spending and wasting your time with them.
Absolutely.
No, that's, yes. So we are running really low on time. We have one really solid question that I want to make sure we get to. It's a different topic, but just want to make sure we answer it. So do you push cybersecurity insurance? And have you had any issues renewing your internal coverage this year? That's been a popular topic thread lately around here. So David.
You first. Okay. Do we push it? We encourage it. I wouldn't say we push it. It's not something that we require. Interesting topic. I liken cybersecurity insurance to Aflac, right? And I say, because they say I don't need managed cybersecurity because I have a cybersecurity insurance policy. And I said, well, it's like Aflac. You broke your leg and you have cancer. Congratulations, here's $5,000. Like, it really doesn't help solve the problem, right? And so it'll help in the event of an event. Like, it'll help monetize it, but it's not a different question, but just that's our position on it. So far we haven't had any problems. We're finding a relative uptick on claims being paid out relatively easily, and I think that it's a ploy by the insurance companies to get people comfortable paying for it, right? If they had a history of not paying the claims, then we take out the insurance, right? And so I think it's a really good thing for businesses to have and put in place. We'll see how the landscape changes. I would suspect, and this is just my opinion alone, not based on any knowledge, but it's only going to be a period of time where they won't even issue a policy unless you got some sort of cyber posture inside your business. Probably not even general liability. I mean, the risk is just too great for these claims, and the cost of impact and business interruption and all that stuff are going to start. So that's if for no other reason, like, figure out this within your business to have something to be able to mitigate some of this, because you're going to have clients that are going to be calling, having to have it. But again, don't be irresponsible about it. Make sure your people are educated and trained. There you go.
Yeah, I would say on that front, we looked at a product, and there's some out there where they build it in. It's like, you as a managed service provider can provide this, some cyber insurance up to a certain level. And when we looked at the detail, it sounded great on the surface. I'm like, oh, that's inexpensive, and we could add this in. It's kind of a cool extra feature benefit. But when we really dug into it and we found out, well, what are the incidents and types of events you cover? We realized that a lot of the events that they didn't cover are the ways in which it would probably have affected our clients. And so we just said we've chosen, at least till now, to say we're not going to build that in. Do we encourage it? Do we help our clients participate in conversations? Absolutely. But to David's point, I mean, this is a immature underwriting process, right? Because there's no database of how well you and your team do from a security perspective. So I think that I'm excited about that industry maturing, and I think because that'll be good for our industry, I think, because it'll force people you need to have a certain type of security assessment that maps your security standards to NIST or whatever that is, and that'll be service revenue for us and additional security protocols and tools for them, for us as well, and services we can provide. And then hopefully that could actually get to the point where if you can demonstrate better security practices, your premiums are actually going to be less, right? Right now, that it's a a self-assessment that says, yep, I'm secure, I'm secure, I'm secure, to come up with a premium. And so we recommend it. We talk to clients, we help them with it. We probably don't do, candidly, a good enough job of recommending it. We could do a much better job of that. But we've chosen not to do it and build it in ourselves because the liability that I think that's there, we opted for the little incremental revenue that we might get for adding that on. The liability is too great, so we've chosen not to do it.
It's an interesting topic. We basically just in the last few months have referral programs with insurance providers. So those that are asking about cybersecurity, get us in there so that we can talk to them about it and we can make sure that those boxes are checked for them. So just on a side marketing note.
Cool.
No, that's great. So Sarah, we'll finish up with you of, do you push cybersecurity insurance, and have you had any issues then renewing any of your internal coverages this year?
We have not had any problems, and it's part of our account management check. Do you guys have cybersecurity insurance, and is it enough for a incident of sorts? You can never say whether you have enough or not, but we definitely do. Like we once we get to a point in security, we require that we have the record of their insurance on ours. A big thing for that is if an incident does happen, if you don't have your insurance, then that can cause a lot of problems because they require that certain mitigation happens by their standards. And so that was a big thing to make sure that we have everybody's on record and that we know that's the first process or the first thing in it is picking that up.
Perfect. So we are over time, so we'll go ahead and close this out. I appreciate all of you so much joining and giving your insight and sharing your stack information and all of that. This has been a lot of fun to put together. It's been good to see everybody in this crazy, crazy virtual world. For all of you out in the audience, keep trying, keep pushing. As you heard today, like, this is not an overnight solution. It's not an overnight answer. But there are definitely others kind of, fighting this fight with you and having these conversations as well. And we can always stand to learn from each other in conversations like this. So we'll keep hosting stuff like this and hope to see you again on the next one.
That's good.
Thanks, everyone.
Good chatting.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.